In Times Long Ago by James P. Meyer. Education. Helen's story.
My earliest recollection of business interest came as a young child. My father was a storekeeper, and I grew up doing various chores from sweeping to counting money. In 1929, I was a senior in high school, and my father had since left the china shop and owned an automobile business. He sold Willys Knights. My chores were to dust off the cars, sell automobile parts, figure bookkeeping occasionally, and answer the telephone for the salesmen and mechanics. My schooling was teaching me bookkeeping, typing, and shorthand, so I fit right in with some of the business end of Father's business. Also, I got a real kick out of being the boss's daughter, and boy did I play that up, but not for long. I was never without a car. I would drive any trade-in or demonstrator my father would leave me. Sometimes I would forget which car I drove to school in, so I would walk home, not even sure if I had had a car that morning. On a beautiful late spring day, we were to go to Lake Madison to get the cottage ready for summer. We packed a picnic, and I gathered my mother, grandmother, sisters, and a girlfriend into a Willys Knights automobile, parked in front of our apartment. We were to meet Father at the lake after he finished up some business in town. When he got to the lake, he remarked to me, "Nice looking Willys. Where did you get it?" When I told him it was parked in front of the apartment, he informed me it wasn't his car. I was shocked. My mother was upset and told my father to take it back. He said, "I didn't take the car." My girlfriend and I said we'd take it back. We drove about a mile from the lake when we spotted the chief of police coming our direction. I looked at my girlfriend, and she looked at me, and we knew he was looking for this car. We all stopped, and an irate farmer came flying out of the chief's car, waving his arms and shouting. The chief calmed him and asked us for an explanation. After we told him our sordid story and pointed out the similarities of my father's Willys Knights and this car, the chief told the farmer to take his car and go home. He told us to get into his car, and he drove us back to the lake, with no more questions asked. My education came in many forms, and one thing I'll never forget: never steal cars. The next time, the chief of police might not be there to bail you out.
I wonder if Helen was a good driver. I wonder how much trust her father had in her. I wonder what Helen thought or felt when she was pulled over. I wonder what Helen and her girlfriend felt at first when the chief told them to get into his car. I wonder why the chief didn't say another word about the incident to the girls on the way back. I wonder where you are in this story. I wonder if they gave the chief a piece of cake when they got back to the lake. Family Room Reflections. One day they heard screaming and hollering going on down the street and coming their way. The people standing in the street turned their heads toward the commotion, and others hung out of their windows, trying to get a view of what was coming their way. First, they saw a woman running, out of breath and screaming in terror. And hot on her heels, there came a throng of men, waving their arms and shouting at her, spitting curses, trying to reach her. She fell at the teacher's feet, and they all stopped right in front of him. One angered, red-faced man stepped forward and said that the woman had sinned in adultery by being with a married man who was not her husband. He said, "The law requires death by stoning. What do you say?" Jesus reached for a stone and, looking at the crowd, inquired, "You who have not sinned may cast the first stone." Looking deep within themselves, the people couldn't do it and dropped their stones and walked away. Jesus turned to the woman and asked, "Who condemns you now?" And she said, "No one." And Jesus said, "And neither do I. Go and sin no more." Paraphrased, John 8, 3-11. Recollections. Have you ever driven a Willys Knights car? Or its descendant, a Chrysler Willys Jeep? Helen was caught red-handed, no excuses. She was driving a car that belonged to another. The woman accused of adultery was, with no excuses, caught with another man. What is your story? Who have you forgiven? And to whom have you asked for forgiveness? What incident turned you toward the light and forgiveness? What is your story? Storyteller, Amy Meyer. Narrator, Jim Meyer. All materials copyright Thule Press, 2003. For more information about Jim's presentations and workshops for your setting, contact Pastor Jim Meyer. The History of Our Lives. Phone and voicemail 651-330-4692. Steeplechaser@juno.com.